So what if I told you that a massive political crisis threatening to literally break apart a G7 nation and an ideological war over the future of our entire digital economy were connected by a single name? Sounds kind of crazy, right? But believe it or not, it's happening right now.
On one hand, you've got Canada. The province of Alberta is wrestling with the separatist movement that's been bubbling up for decades, and it's all fueled by this deep-seated feeling of being economically and culturally separate. And on the other hand, you've got the United States, where the wild, multi-trillion-dollar world of cryptocurrency is just stuck in this regulatory chaos that could decide its entire future. You'd think these two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
But there is one thing they have in common, and it's that both of them are desperately trying to find a path forward using something called the Clarity Act. But wait a minute, how can one name, one idea, possibly apply to two problems that are so wildly different? Well, that's exactly what we're here to untangle.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to dig into those long-simmering tensions in Alberta and how Canada legally tries to handle a breakup. Then, we'll jump over to the total chaos of the U.S. crypto market and the philosophical battle it's created. And finally, we're going to connect all the dots and figure out what this shared quest for clarity is really all about.
Okay, so let's start up in Canada. You know, this idea of Alberta leaving the country, it's not some new thing that just popped up overnight. Nope. It's rooted in this long history of what people call Western alienation, this powerful belief that Alberta is just fundamentally different from the rest of Canada, especially from the political power centers out east.
Now, this number really puts that feeling into perspective. $27 billion. In just 1 year in 2015, that's how much more money Alberta sent to the federal government than it got back. For a lot of Albertans, that isn't just a statistic. It's cold, hard proof that their oil wealth is propping up the entire country while their own needs get pushed aside.
And like I said, this isn't some recent flare-up. You can see these clear waves of anger throughout history. It happened back in the 30s during the Great Depression. Then it exploded in the 80s when Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau's energy policy felt like a direct attack on Alberta's economy. And more recently, under his son, Justin Trudeau, we've seen this whole Wexit movement catch fire all over again.
So with this threat of separation popping up again and again, how does a country like Canada even begin to handle the idea of a province just leaving? Well, they did what any good Canadian would do. They tried to create a very orderly rulebook.
And this is it. This is Canada's Clarity Act. It came out of all those debates about Quebec leaving. And it basically throws up two huge roadblocks. First, the question on the ballot has to be super clear. No tricky wording. Second, and this is the big one, even if a clear majority votes to leave, it's not over. And by the way, clear majority is deliberately vague. A win is actually just the starting gun for years of messy, complicated negotiations with the rest of Canada about, well, everything. Borders, debt, you name it. And if you really want to feel the raw emotion that's fueled all this, just look at this quote. This was a hugely popular bumper sticker in Alberta back in the 80s. This wasn't just a polite political disagreement. This was a visceral, angry cry of betrayal that has echoed down through the generations.
Now let's see how this plays out in the real world with polling numbers. You can see that support for separation is just all over the place, and it's tied directly to federal politics. After Justin Trudeau won his second election in 2019, boom, support jumps to 38%. After the next federal election, it surges to almost half the population at 47%. But now, it's back down to 29%. It just goes to show you this is a constantly shifting battleground.
All right, let's take a deep breath and do a hard pivot. We're leaving the plains of Alberta and jumping straight into the digital frontier, the Wild West of cryptocurrency in the United States. And here, the problem isn't a country dividing, but an entire industry that just grew so fast, it completely outran any of the old rules.
The key thing to understand here is this regulatory turf war. For years, you've had two of the most powerful regulators in the U.S., the SEC and the CFTC, basically fighting over who gets to be the sheriff of Cryptotown. Is a digital coin a security, like a stock, or is it a commodity, like gold? Nobody could agree, and that uncertainty has left this massive industry completely in limbo. And so, enter the U.S. version of the Clarity Act. Now, it's not the official name, but the goal is exactly the same. Bring some clarity to the chaos. This proposed law wants to finally end that turf war by just drawing a clear line in the sand. It sets up a process to decide what the SEC regulates and what the CFTC regulates. The whole point is to finally give the industry a predictable rulebook to play by.
So you'd think everyone in crypto would be thrilled about this, right? Finally, some rules. But you'd be wrong. This push for a new law has ignited this incredibly fierce ideological civil war inside the crypto community over what its future should even be.
And it really breaks down into two main camps. On one side, you've got the integrationists, people like Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple. They're basically saying, look, for crypto to go mainstream, we have to work with the banks and the government. They see this Clarity Act as their ticket to legitimacy. But on the other side, you've got the rebels, championed by Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano. To them, this bill is a complete and total betrayal of what crypto is all about.
And Hoskinson does not mince words. His whole view is that crypto was never, ever meant to play nice with the establishment. He famously said, "Crypto is the punk rock of finance. We're supposed to be the rebels." For him, working with regulators isn't a compromise. It's surrendering the very soul of the revolution.
And he's not just being dramatic here. The stakes, as he sees it, are unbelievably high. He's warning that this kind of regulation is a slippery slope to a future where just a handful of big banks control everything again, where your assets aren't really yours, and the whole original promise of financial freedom is just gone. It's a fight against what he calls total institutional capture.
So there you have it. A province fighting for its political sovereignty and a digital protocol fighting for its very soul. Let's pull back and bring these two incredible stories together, because the connection is hiding in plain sight.
The central question, the one that applies to both of these huge fights, is this. Are these Clarity Acts really about providing genuine, neutral rules of the road? Or are they actually tools of capture, designed by a central power, whether it's Ottawa or Washington, to get control of a frontier that it feels is slipping through its fingers?
And when you look at it that way, the parallels are just stunning, aren't they? Both Alberta and the crypto world are fighting for their own kind of sovereignty. Both represent a new frontier. One is geographic and economic, the other is digital, and both are struggling with how to write their own rules. At the very heart of it, both are about defining a relationship with a central power and fighting for the right to control their own economic future.
Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. Whether we're talking about a nation or a network, this push for clarity is really a push for certainty in a world that feels more uncertain than ever. But in a world that is defined by constant change, can any set of rules, no matter how clear we try to make them, ever really be permanent? Or is this constant struggle itself the only thing we can truly count on?